So Hexen is one of my favorite games that I still play to this day. The first time I played this was on the N64 console, but later I found it for the PC when I stumbled into a pawn shop and found the floppy disks. And to this day, Hexen will always be a game I am willing to load up and play. I was looking into a few details about Hexen, so I thought I would share them with you. Here's a few things that I noticed about the game that are not so obvious. In the video game Quake Champions, the character Galena has a symbol on her chest that looks similar to the symbol of the Serpent Riders. The Serpent Staff weapon of the Cleric has the symbol of the Serpent Riders, and it's not explained how or why he is using a weapon that carries the symbol of the enemy. But I think one theory about this is when his people and Traductus were corrupted by Korax, perhaps their weapons were imbued with new power, and instead of throwing it away, he kept it, and is now using their power against them. There are 3 types of mana in the game. There's blue, green, and red for combined. You can see some lines or symbols on them. Now these symbols are said to be Japanese symbols. The Here's the Arc boss has animations where it controls the blue and green mana cubes, but it also has its own purple one, and they all seem to have the same symbol on them. When he activates his deflection spell, 2 black orbs surround his body. It also has the same symbol as the other mana cubes. The bouncing fireballs he summons actually have faces on them. Just look closely, and you can see them from the front and side view. The Here's the Arc's bouncing fireballs can track your location, not only on the ground, but they even track you in the air. In the stage called Necropolis, you can find gravestones in some areas. If you look closely, you can see some names on them. I did find a few people with these names in the credits, so it might be linked to them. The Necropolis stage also has a bonus level called Vivarium, along with 3 portals to the bosses. When you first clear out the enemies within the Necropolis stage, you have to make a choice of either going to the secret stage first or skipping it entirely and going to one of the 3 bosses. If you want to access the secret stage Vivarium, you need to go there first, because if you make a choice to enter an area that leads to a boss, as soon as you enter that section, the door that leads to the portal into the stage Vivarium will be locked from the inside. The first hub you go into is the 7 Portals. It contains a hidden stage called Bright Crucible, and part of the objective in this level is to pick up the item called the Heart of Disperal, which is the name of the main enemy in the story of Heretic. The final boss in Hexen is Korax, and his name is taken from the scientific name for the black raven bird, which is Corvus corax, which is also linked to the picture used on the logo for Raven Software. Within the second hub, there's a level called the Caves of Cirque. You can find a Porculator item there. This item would turn enemies into pigs. Cirque and the Porculator have a connection to Greek mythology. Cirque was said to be a powerful enchantress or sorceress. She would turn men into pigs. The main boss in the story of Heretic is Disperal. This game is connected to the story of Hexen, but the design of Disperal could have been inspiration for the boss Mordecai in the video game Serious Sam: The Second Encounter. In 1998, there was a gaming magazine that highlighted the best and worst video games on different platforms. This issue was apparently approved by EGM. There's a section that talks about Hexen, and they said the versions that went to other platforms were just mediocre, and that this game should have stayed on PC. Well, back in the late 90s, I was introduced to Hexen when it was on Nintendo 64, and I really liked it. And honestly, I thought it was okay. I did try the PlayStation version, but it might have been the worst port out of all of them, at least for me. In the German language, the word Hexen translates to witches. The game also has a difficulty level called Warlock, which in German translates to Hexenmeister, which is the male version of a witch. In the video game called Blood, which was released in 1997, there's a level called Lost Monastery, and a section of the stage has you going up a set of stairs and ringing a bell. which could have been a reference to the first stage of Hexen, where you also have to ring a bell to advance further. If you're playing as the mage, you don't have to enter the cave to get the key to reach the bell tower. Once you enter this area, you can shoot the bell from down below. If you do this, you only skip a few enemies in the cave. When you reach the stage called Gibbet, you have to place 2 books on a shelf within the library. You can see the letters on some books will spell out the name Corax. In the first level, if you look up, you can see an open gap in the wall from where you start. If you play the game normally, you can't see what's up there. That's because that section of the map is not part of the story mode. This area is only accessed through a teleporter for multiplayer. I can show you footage from the N64 version to see what's up there. Inside the room with the emerald key, there's a hidden section behind a wall. The door is locked in single player, but in multiplayer, it opens on its own. And on the other side, you get teleported to that top area we saw earlier. In multiplayer, you can pick up an item that refills your health to full. But the strange thing here is that the teleporter is still active in single player. If you use the cheat code no clipping to walk through walls, you can find that teleporter is still there in the corner, but the door to this area will not open in single player. You can still go through the teleporter, which takes you to that top area, but there's nothing there in single player. Later in the game, you would find an item and place it on a statue, but when you pick it up, the name is Yorick's Skull. This could be linked to Yorick's skull that was mentioned in the movie Hamlet from 1948. The final weapon of the cleric is the Wraith Verge. It fires a sphere that releases a swarm of ghosts that will attack enemies, similar to the scene from Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's a golden version of the Morph Ovum that was found in Heretic. The sprite is still within the game files of Hexen, but it's incomplete. You can transform enemies into something, but there's no projectile, and you can't see what enemies turn into or what they sound like. They will still hit you, and you can hit them back. I think in the end, they forgot to remove the files and replaced it with the percolator that turns enemies into pigs. If you open the map screen, it shows how much time you've been within the game on a certain save file. If you manage to stay in the game for a total of 5 days, you'll get a hidden message that says, "You freak."
You have played this game too long, mortal.
The shareware version of the game, or the demo, had a list of cheat codes where the letters you would input were part of the staff members' names. These were later renamed in the final version of the game. The code for no clipping mode was R. Johnson, but in the final version, it was changed to Casper, which could have been a reference to the 1995 movie Casper the Ghost. There's a cheat code called Deliverance, which turns the player into a pig. You have less health and use your snout to attack, but you can still use other items. This action is a reference to the movie called Deliverance from 1972, which has a scene where someone traumatizes another man both physically and mentally. Another cheat code is Conan, which removes all of your weapons, but you can still use your other items. The previous input code for this effect was Rambo. Back in the game Heretic, the code Rambo would give you all your weapons with full ammo. The code in Hexen had the opposite effect. If you played on the highest difficulty setting, enemies just moved much faster. On the back of the Heretic mail order box, you can see a Disciple of Despair, but his color is light blue. But in the final version, the color of their clothing was black. So sometime near the end of development, it was changed. After you defeat Despair in Heretic, you get this wall of text. The last question at the bottom would ask, what about the other Serpent Riders? We then see an image of a Heresiarch and what might be the Chaos Sphere, which seems like it was planned to be the second Serpent Rider, but somewhere during Hexen's development, Corax would get a change in his design, and this could have been the time they changed the Heresiarch and made him into another boss in the story mode. The sound files of the Heresiarch are set to SOR, which could be short for Sorcerer. The Heresiarch and Disparal would be similar in size and what abilities they could do. Disparal could summon Disciples, while the Heresiarch could summon Dark Bishops. They both shared a humanoid body, like having 2 arms and 2 legs. The design of the Heresiarch would just be too similar to Disparal, so I'm glad we got a new look for Corax in Hexen. Both Disparal and the Heresiarch had death animations where their bodies are destroyed and their bones would crumble to the floor. I guess what they did to Corax was a good change, instead of fighting another wizard in a robe. These next 2 are found within the expansion Death Kings of the Dark Citadel. When you start the marketplace area, there are holes in the ceiling. As the light shines through those holes, it leaves a pattern on the floor. If you're far away, you can see the full image, but it looks to be the shape of the starship USS Enterprise from the Star Trek TV series. Here's a comparison so you can see them at the same time. It's a well-hidden Easter egg, but it really does look like the Enterprise. In the level called Locus Requiescat, the larger tombstones have names of the developers on them. If you press the button that's used to open doors, they will give you funny messages. And after all these years, Hexen is a game I still enjoy. The hub system might take some time getting used to, but it was a nice change compared to Doom and Duke Nukem. I also like the setting of castles, dungeons, swamps, magic, and strange creatures. While the Hexen franchise has been dormant for a long time, there's been a few games out there that were either inspired or influenced by Hexen in some way.
Destroy thy heretic. Self-useless Nibiru, the raven says to your flesh, absent in earth, surrender to Disparal. Machine on earth, the third lovely ship, so you are back.
When Heretic was released, Disparal was seen riding a Chaos Serpent. When Hexen was released, Corax was not riding anything, he was alone. But within the manual of Hexen 2, there's an art piece that shows Corax riding a giant creature, so that leaves only Eidolon that is not riding any type of monster or creature. Another thing in Hexen 2 is that during the intro, the old man talking is said to be Themides, Sage of Myr. When he mentions Disparal, he shows a Chaos Serpent and not Disparal. And that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, then leave a thumbs up rating. And if you want to see more stuff like this, like lore videos or mysteries around gaming, then subscribe to my channel. That's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.